Hello, everyone. It is Jess Tomlinson and Starr, and we are so excited to have you here watching, whether you're live or you're watching the video replay. We have got an exciting webinar, lots of amazing information for you today to really support you through this holiday and your broken heart. So this is the 5th webinar. I'm almost done. There's 6
Wow.
of the Surviving Holiday Heartbreak series, and Starr and I are going to jam it out on something that we were both super excited about. I call it shedding the shoulds, and she calls it shattering the shoulds, which I freaking love. And it is an amazing tool for healing, to support you when you are feeling heartbroken and you just need a little extra love during this holiday season, beyond, and really in all areas of your life, not just relationships. So I'm so thrilled to have you watching this, for being here with Starr and I for the next entire hour. You're going to want to stay on. We will go the full time. Starr and I like to talk.
Oh, yeah.
So we will definitely be using this full hour, and you're going to want to stay on the whole time because Starr has a really generous gift that she's going to be offering to you. And I know firsthand her work is amazing. I know what the gift is. I'm not going to share. I'm going to let her share at the end. So you're going to want to stay on so you can take advantage and get that free gift that she has in store for you. So I'm feeling like, before I introduce the lovely Starr, I just want to take a moment to really kind of pause. I know my nervous system is a little bit like, "Wah!" I've had, this is the 3rd webinar I've done today, and I actually just made the drive up to San Francisco from Santa Cruz, and there was tons of rain and traffic and accidents. And as many of you know, if you've been following me during this holiday heartbreak survival kit offering, my very dear childhood friend is not doing well, and she might not live that much longer. So I'm actually flying out. I made all these arrangements to be able to fly out tomorrow to go see her. So with that, just honoring and acknowledging that there's all forms of heartbreak that can happen, and I'm definitely in it. Thank goodness I'm not in romantic heartbreak right now, though I've been in lots of it, which is why I support recently heartbroken women and getting through heartbreak. So I just want to take a moment and pause. Like, if it feels appropriate to you, maybe even just closing your eyes and putting your hand on your heart and just taking a deep breath in. Letting it go. Just sending some gratitude to yourself, some gratitude to the world right now, to this moment, and most of all to your heart. And I would also like to send some gratitude to Starr for being here with us and showing up and sharing her amazing wisdom. When you feel ready, you can open your eyes. So thank you, Starr, so much for being here. I'm so grateful. Ever since I first met you, I'm like, that is definitely a shining star, pun intended. You are an amazing woman, and you are just, I really appreciate this presence that you have, but also this fierceness. That's why I think that shattering the shoulds just speaks so much to who you are in the world, and really being a rebel and breaking those standard things that society tells us to do. And so I'm so honored to have you as one of the many experts who is offering her gift in the Holiday Heartbreak Survival Kit, but as one of the 6 who I'm interviewing because I love so dearly. So thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Jessica. It's such an honor to be here. And, I want to acknowledge you for continuing to do this. I know that you had already put a lot of time and energy into this survival kit and into the series before you found out about your friend. And I lost my childhood best friend 10 years ago, and so I know how hard that can be. And so I just want to honor and bless you for being in a place of service and wanting to serve your community in this way, and for reaching out to those of us who have something to offer your community. And so I just think this is a perfect time to be talking about this with the climate of the world and also with the season. It's so easy to look around and think that everyone's happy but you, if you've got something up. And so I just think that this topic is so important. So thank you for doing the work that you do for your clients, but especially for showing up in this way for this community, for this time, because it's just really so powerful, the work that you're doing. And I just adore you. I think that you're a fabulous woman, and you have so much light and sparkle and so much joy to give. And so I'm just honored to get to work with you in this way and to talk with you in this way. It's going to be fun.
Thank you so much for that. Yeah, it's going to be so much fun. And I really stand for women not doing it alone. People in general not doing it alone, but I know both of us help women, and so we need each other. So I really just want to honor those who are maybe feeling alone as they're watching this, and for them to know that they're not alone and that support is always there. And we are here during this next hour and beyond, if they choose, to receive support from us. So thank you. So before I have you share a little bit more about like who you are and the work you do in the world, because I love to just, share like the heart stuff. But before we do that, I just want to acknowledge that Starr and I are not sure if you can see me. Like she can't see me, I can see her. So if you can't see me, apologize. Apparently I don't want to be seen right now. I can see myself. But I know these things are so much more fun when you can see the people who are talking. And so just acknowledging that Starr and I said that we always feel a little disconnect if we can't see each other. So we will do our best to stay connected. And so if you feel disconnected from me for any reason because you can't see me, just know I'm here and there's going to be lots of great content. So, all right, Starr, would you like to share a little bit more, just anything you want those watching to know about you, the work that you do in the world?
Yeah, thank you for asking. So I've been studying and practicing and teaching spiritual and personal development for 15 years. And I was involved in a spiritual community for 14 of those years. And then I got that kind of inner call to take my work out into the world and really share it with other women who maybe aren't showing up at a spiritual community on Sundays. And so I've trained in the law of attraction and metaphysics. I'm a licensed and ordained spiritual and esoteric minister. And I homeschool 2 out of 3 of my kids. I'm a professional vocalist. I do a lot, but my life, I do a lot. I don't get bored very easily. But my life, it wasn't always this fantastic. I came from a lot of dysfunction and toxicity, and I was raised by some really unhealthy people who, let's just say, they didn't meet their needs very well, so they didn't meet my needs very well either. And so it was more about them. And so I learned to kind of be really good at meeting other people's needs, but not my own. And so over the last 10 to 15 years, when I found this spiritual community and I started practicing the law of attraction and metaphysics in my own life, I had just come out of a really messy divorce in the middle of a custody battle. And it was a time where it would have been really easy to say yes to self-sabotage. And don't get me wrong, I dabbled in self-sabotage. I stuck my toe in the water and tried it out to see what it was like. But at the same time, I was also taking classes about empowerment and choosing my life and knowing that I don't have to change myself in order to be worthy of love. And so because of that, I was able to set my next relationship up in a really intentional way. And I've been able to heal a lot of these old wounds around how I'm treated and how I treat myself and how I treat others. So now I've got this incredible life where I have these amazing relationships. I've been with my now husband for 14 years. We just celebrated our 10-year wedding anniversary this August. And it's so great to have a healthy, supportive, fulfilling relationship that isn't codependent. because I was raised in a very codependent, enmeshed version of what relationship is, where the other person's needs are more important than your own. And it's really wonderful to be in this healthy, supportive relationship where we support each other and we see each other and we celebrate each other, but we're not in charge of each other, and it's not our job to take care of the other person. And we make sure that our needs are met by ourselves first. And it's just so beautiful to get to participate in that, but also to model that for my children and to teach that to my clients so that they can start to heal their attraction to dysfunction, and heal just kind of those patterns that can keep us coming back to dysfunction because it feels really comfortable. And really step into the bright light that they are, because what I believe is that no one's broken. No one needs to be fixed, but we all have patterns that maybe aren't serving us, and we can shift those patterns. And so I work with spiritual women entrepreneurs who maybe are really good at the business aspect or really good at the relationship aspect, but aren't so good at handling both simultaneously. And so I support them as they reconnect with spirit in a way that really allows them success and fulfillment in both their work and their relationships, so they can have love, success, and free time. What a concept, right?
Yeah, they can have it all. I'm with you, sister. I have to. I'm sorry if I'm interrupting you, but I just got to.
No, I'm done. You're good.
Okay, you are. Okay. So just one thing around that I love to share because it fires me up, and I know this is going to fire you up too. I will never forget when I was sitting at a like a women's event, and there was a whole bunch of like executives, vice presidents, women leaders in the Las Vegas community that were sitting up being interviewed on a panel. And there was a question about like balancing, and I don't believe in balance, but that's a side topic. But one of the women, I will never forget this. It fired me up so much. She said, "I'm sorry to tell you ladies, but you really just can't have it all. You have to choose." And I was like, what's happening? Like, why are you sitting up there? Like, it really upset me because I know you and I both, Starr, really take a stand for like, well, then what the fuck are we doing here? Like we can have all that we really want. It's just a matter of coming home to that place where we know that we're worthy and we deserve it, and we have the tools to actually go out and get it. And so I just wanted to bring that to light because I love that. You'd get a kick out of that.
Oh yeah. Cause I think that's a trap that we fall into as a culture. We do, especially for women. It's like you have the career or the family, and it's really sad that most men don't ever have to ask themselves that question, and women ask themselves that all the time. And so with, the solopreneur business model is the fastest growing business model on the planet right now. So people are starting businesses, and women are actually starting businesses at twice the rate that men are. And so here we have all these amazing women entrepreneurs that are stepping into their power. But then I'm also seeing a trend of them then focusing so much on their business that their relationships are failing, or they're not getting the attention they deserve, or they're not as fulfilling as they could be. And in my experience, when you have that support of the healthy relationship, it's the fuel that really, makes success in a bigger way possible, because you have that support system behind you. You know that you're loved and accepted, even by a few people, when you forget that the whole world does it too.
Yeah. So I would love to hear, what does shattering the shoulds mean to you? Because like, I was saying, I say shed the shoulds. And so I love learning when we have like similar concepts, like what does that mean to you? And a second part to that, like, why does it really matter? Especially for women who might be struggling in heartbreak during this time.
Yeah. Those are great questions. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I'd say, what I mean by shatter your shoulds is we have so many cultural narratives, so many stories, so many ideas about what life should look like. We've got shoulds around what a mother is supposed to be, what a wife's supposed to be, what a girl's friend is supposed to be, what a sister or a daughter, what these ideas of roles are. And then we have all of these preconceived notions as to what that's supposed to look like. And we end up piling so many supposed tos and have tos and shoulds that there's really not room for our essential nature to show up. There's really not room for our spontaneity to show up. There's really not room for our light to really shine because we're covering it up with all these supposed tos and shoulds. And even if the tasks themselves are good ideas, when we approach it from a should sort of place, I kind of describe it as violence to the self. It's like we're behind ourselves with a whip, cracking this whip saying, get your act in the gear, you know, like as my mom used to say, get your shit together, you know, and it's like, you should do this and you should do that. And while that may be a short-term solution, you might actually motivate yourself to do it in the moment. That's not a long-term sustainable way to approach motivation and to approach getting stuff done. Because what happens is it's not on a strong foundation because it's not based on who we actually are. And so it can crumble really easily, and we can constantly be feeling like a failure because generally when we have a should, it's so high, the expectation is set so high that we can never meet it. So we'll always feel like a failure.
Oh
and
my
so,
God, we're the same person. I say that too. Yeah, girl. I say the same thing. And like I always say that expectations are important. It's in the sense of like, set them high because you want to, right? But when you set them from that place of should, it's like you set them so high and it's because of somebody else, you know, like you're worried of like displeasing somebody else or not making somebody else happy, that then there's all this like gap. I know you can't see me, but I'm like holding my hand up and like moving this like space in between my hand. Like there's this gap, right? Just like you're saying of like, you make it impossible to actually meet these expectations for yourself and come from that joyous place.
Well, and what you're talking about, it's based on fear. It's based on fear that we're not that thing. It's based on fear that we're not going to be good enough. It's based on fear that we're going to let these people down. It's based on fear that they're going to think we're a fraud, or I could list 20 other fears, but all of our shoulds are really based on a fear that we're not enough.
Yeah.
And so for me, shattering the shoulds is really saying, you know what, that's bullshit. I don't care where I got that. I don't care if I got it from my mother or my teacher or a movie or a well-meaning friend. If it's not resonating, if it's not bringing me joy, if it's not bringing me more, whatever your more is, then why do it? Let's ditch that. And I used a strong word like shatter because I think we grip so tightly to our shoulds because we secretly believe that if we could accomplish those things, everything will be better. That we really have to just like break that shit apart and be like, no, it is time for me. And so, you know, my business is called Radical Revelations. And the reason that I named it that is because I don't believe that we need to become anything. I believe that we're already this brilliant, bright, amazing, incredible light. That really it's about pulling back the layers of false belief, pulling back the layers of supposed tos and shattering those shoulds so that we can create a space for our true self to show up, for our true bright light to shine. And we don't have to fake it. We don't have to become something else. And so it's really about revealing that light. But in a world that tells us we have to strive to become and we have to work really hard to do the thing, it's a really radical notion to just be like, no, you're actually pretty amazing already. You just forgot. You just forgot. And so it's, you know, so shattering your shoulds to me is like remembering who you are.
Yes. Oh my God. I just wrote, there's two things that are coming to mind when you say that. Number one, I think it was on the interview with Sophia that I did earlier today.
I love her.
Yes. She was number 4 in this series. So make sure you guys go back and I send out in your replay email all the links to the replays for you to watch. But in Sophia's, we talked about that same thing. Those like, you know, push, do all these expectations for, and here's what's coming up for me. The second part is that when you are in heartbreak, and I've been there many times. I'm an expert in heartbreak because I've been there so many times, and I've been able to pull myself through. And now if I do experience heartbreak, it's so hard, but I'm able to pull myself out a lot faster because I do shatter my shoulds, which
Yep.
the should for me that I used to say is like, I shouldn't be single. I shouldn't,
Oh.
I shouldn't be sad and like process. I should just go out there, keep myself busy. I shouldn't feel weak. I should feel strong.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
kind of all these things that like are for me, my mom, who I love her, and we're working on this like growth thing together now, which is so beautiful. But my latest like heartbreak, which was a year and a half ago, I hesitated to call her because I knew she was gonna say, just be strong, just be strong.
Mm.
And
Yep.
she did. When I finally called her, I had to feel strong enough in myself that I could shatter that should, right? And tell
Yep.
her, but mom, I actually don't want to be. And I did. I was
Yeah.
so proud of myself. I was like,
Good for
yay, score for
you.
me. So, just
Yeah.
a demonstration of what it can look like to shatter those shoulds. And that actually, and I'm curious of your perspective on this, Starr, for me, shattering my shoulds and letting go of those expectations and really taking a stand for what works for me has actually allowed me to go through the healing much faster, even though it might not look like it.
Yes. No, I absolutely agree. And in fact, that's where I was going to go with the second question you asked about how this really applies, if you're in heartbreak, which
Mm-hmm.
is when we have a should, it's like every step that we take forward, our inner judge goes, oh, no, don't do that. You should do this instead. Oh, no, don't do that. You should do this instead. And so we don't even follow our inner guidance
Mm-hmm.
towards what for us. And especially for women around emotions, we have so much fear around being emotional and around being needy or being perceived that way
Yeah.
that we should all over ourselves. We don't reach out for support. We feel like having an emotion is weak. We feel like we should get over it really fast, or we should be the strong one. We feel like our emotions are a burden,
Mm-hmm.
and so we shouldn't bother our friends, because they don't want to hear it, or whatever stories we make up.
Mm-hmm.
And what I've found is that when we shatter those shoulds and just really let our body and our heart be our guide, then that healing does occur a lot faster because we meet our needs more easily. We actually listen to our needs. And when we're shoulding on ourselves, then we don't meet those needs because we poo-poo them. We go, oh, no, I shouldn't cry right now. I should watch a movie, or I should call a friend, or I should do something inspiring, lifting.
Right.
And the thing about our needs is that they're going to get met. Our needs get met. It's just a matter of if we meet them directly and with compassion, or if they come out sideways and get met indirectly by tearing apart our life.
Oh, that's so interesting. Okay, I want you to elaborate on that because I've never
Yeah.
heard that perspective before. Like anytime I've heard,
Yeah.
anytime I've interviewed anybody or talked to other people about this whole thing of needs, which is so important,
Mm-hmm.
nobody's ever
Mm-hmm.
said that they get met no matter what. So explain that a little bit more.
They do. So I'll use an example from my own life. So years ago,
Yeah.
I was seeing a shaman coach. And one of the things that came up as he was coaching me was my need for attention.
Mm-hmm.
I've been performing since I was 3.5. I'm really good on stage. I sing, I dance, I do all these things. And but I had always felt really bad about that I shouldn't need attention. That had always been um, I'd been put down for needing attention, or for needing more attention than most people. And he was really like, okay, do you think that the Oprahs and the Jim Carreys and the Robin Williams of the world, do you think they don't like attention? Like, no, they fucking love attention.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's
and
why they are who they are.
right, and to perform. And so he kind of helped me come into terms with the fact that I have, like, one of my needs is to perform, is to get attention through performing. But what was happening is, because I wasn't meeting that need directly, I wasn't acknowledging it as a need, first of all, and then I wasn't meeting it.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, every conversation turned into a performance. And I couldn't actually be
Ah,
present with the person I was talking to,
yeah.
because subconsciously it was more important for them to see how great I am, for me to get attention, for me to wow them with my whatever. And so I wasn't actually being fully present. I was using them to get a need met that I didn't need directly.
Oh my
And so
gosh,
my
this is so
coach
good.
actually, he was like, your homework is to perform on a regular basis as part of your self-care.
Yeah.
And so when I recognize that I have a need to perform, I have a need to be seen in a certain way, whether it's public speaking, whether it's singing, whether it's leading, but I have that need to be seen in that way. And I'm just recognizing that if I don't meet it directly, it's going to start coming out sideways.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to start messing with my intention,
Mm-hmm.
because that need is going to get met. Our subconscious protects us, and it actually fills a lot of our needs. 95% of our thoughts are unconscious. So we don't even know what's going on in there. And
Yeah.
most of it is there to protect us and to keep us safe. And so if I feel safe when I have a certain amount of performance in my life and I'm not giving myself that, it's going to come out sideways in conversation.
This is so great, Star. I'm so glad you're bringing this up because, now I totally get it. And I can see in my own life, it's like what is being reflected right now is I think of how when we are in partnership and, if you're experiencing heartbreak right now, it means that you were either in partnership or maybe you are heartbroken in the actual partnership right now, like in present time,
Yeah.
and you're feeling heartbroken, right? All of us have
Yep.
been there at some point. And one thing for me that is really important that I've been experiencing a lot of since I moved from Las Vegas to here in Santa Cruz, California, is a loss of community. And I'm such a
Mm,
communal person. Like I love,
yeah.
especially being around women. I love being in community with women. And it became very clear to me that if I was not in community with women and I was in a partnership, I was seeking that community from the man,
Exactly. Yep.
my partner. And it was like totally unfair pressure for him because here I
Mm-hmm.
am like, be here for me, like I need you. And like, and I never would say that, but that was
Of
definitely
course.
how I was coming across, right? It's like,
Yep.
so what are you doing? And like, no space for like me to go off and like get my needs met in a community with women. And that has come up so many, like in every single interview I think I've done as part of the series. So I know it's
Yeah.
really important to you as well, Star. And you've even got a retreat coming up where you're gathering women together because of like powerful things happen, right? When we come together in
Yes.
community.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. I think that something magical happens when women come together. Like
Mm-hmm.
I can't explain it, but I attended a women's spiritual retreat every year for 9 years, and
Mm.
the first 5 as an attendee and the last 4 as a team member, putting on the
Awesome.
retreat. And it, I'd already taken a lot of classes. I had already done a lot of, read a lot of books and gone to a lot of events, but there was something about a women's retreat, this
Yeah.
safe container where women get together and fully see each other. Because I think there
Mm-hmm.
is that we have that allowance. We're not shoulding on ourselves as much.
Yeah.
We make space for each other's emotions, and we make space for what we're going through, instead of trying to like have it all together for the world. I think
Yeah.
that's something that women do a lot, and especially when we're heartbroken,
Yes.
because we already feel like we take up too much space, and
Mm-hmm.
then we have all these emotions, and then we feel again that burden.
Yeah.
So my retreat is called Women Living Out Loud, and it's specifically for women who feel like they take up too much space, or have been told that, or have been told to
Mm-hmm.
not feel so much, or not speak up so much, or not be so bold, or not be so emotional, or not be
Yeah.
so needy. And I really want to, my intention is to create a safe container for women to be all the things, including the stuff in the shadow and the stuff in the light. So we can celebrate and hold space for all of that. And the theme, ironically, is shatter your shoulds and explode into power. Because I believe,
Explode into power.
yeah,
Explode. You can't
explode.
see me, but I'm making crazy explosions with my hands.
I love it. I love it. I'll do it for you.
Perfect.
Um,
There you go. Yay.
because I feel like there is this like liberation that
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah.
It's like walking out of a prison door, and all of a
Yeah.
sudden the sun, like you've seen the sun for the first time in forever.
Yeah.
That was my experience over and over again at women's retreat, is just peeling back more and more layers of shoulds and supposed tos, and these beliefs that just aren't serving us. And it's not a right, wrong, good, bad thing.
Yeah.
It's just, is this working or is this not working? Is it bringing you what you want in your life, or is it not bringing you what you want in your life? And if it's not, well, let's do something else.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you. I believe that there is something really unique and magical that happens when women come together, and we're hardwired for that. I mean, let's,
We are.
and back in indigenous times where everyone on the planet was living in tribes,
Yeah.
there were weekly, monthly, daily times where women got together and shared their feelings and talked about stuff, and cuddled and groomed each other and danced and sang and drummed and all of these things. And so that's part of what I want to reincorporate into my women's retreat, is an opportunity for us to nurture each other and laugh together and dance
Yeah.
together and sing together and drum. And so so yeah, I'm really excited about that. Thank you for bringing that up.
You're welcome. Yeah, it's so, so beautiful. I remember the first women's retreat I went on completely changed my life. It's actually the whole
Oh yeah.
reason that I ended up letting go of a boyfriend at the time. I ended up like recommitting to my business, and then taking women to Bali for the last 2 years. And then I'm doing it again in 2017. So it was so
Yes.
powerful for me too. And I think coming back to like shattering the shoulds, like, this is not easy stuff. Like it's
No.
easy to say, yeah,
Yeah.
just shatter that should. You feel like you
Yeah.
should do this, but like, just shatter it. Like, it's not easy, and it's so
No.
much easier when you have the support of somebody like Starr or I, or the women that are around
Mm-hmm.
you, that are giving each other permission. Because I really do think for me and my perspective, it comes down to like permission, that it's okay.
Absolutely.
So
Yep.
I'm curious, what are your thoughts around that, Starr, of like, first of all, why is this so hard, to pull back
Yeah.
and to break those shoulds and shatter them? And then what is like a first step people can start doing to, if we take the example of heartbreak, really like what would the next step be, for them,
Yeah.
if they're
Yeah.
wanting to let go of a should around heartbreak?
Totally. Well, first, I love that you asked why it's hard. I feel like I have a
Yeah.
pretty unique perspective on why it's hard, because
Mm,
I look back. I like to look back into like the full history of human, not just civilization, because I think we can
yeah.
learn a lot from our ancestors and how they approached things. And when we were back in tribe, we didn't change our mind about how things were. It was actually in our best interest to believe what the tribe said. So there were thousands of different, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of different tribes, and they all had a
Mhm.
completely different belief system. They had a different idea of what marriage was, and a different idea of how to make the food and how to make the tools and where to get your food, and like all these different customs and beliefs around spirituality and all these different ways of being. And each tribe had a very clear, specific way that they did everything. And
Mm,
so as children, we're actually hardwired to emulate the people around us, because if we literally needed the tribe to survive.
yeah.
And so it actually is in our hardwiring
Yeah.
to get information about the way that the world is and then act that way forever.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so it is just the fact that our own ancestors, like our own grandparents, our own elders, can't even help us navigate this world because it's so different than the one they grew up with,
Yeah.
already puts our brain into this place of searching for the right way. Like, what is the right way? Like, how do I do this? How do I show up? And
Like
then on
constant
top of it,
questioning.
it's, yeah, because we are hardwired to just like be raised in this is the way.
Mhm.
And so I think that's part of why we're constantly like searching for like the one right way for all humans to live.
Mhm.
Thankfully in tribes, they didn't have the notion that all tribes should live their way. They didn't
Mhm.
annihilate their neighboring tribes and make them live their way, but they recognized that their customs were very different than my customs.
Yeah.
And here we have this, like we have so many cultures and so many different ideas, and every different household is like an individual tribe with different rules. And so it, can be really challenging navigating even just how to live, much less how to navigate through something as painful as heartbreak.
Yeah.
And
Oh my gosh.
so,
I have to bring something up real quick, because I just
yeah,
had something
please.
come to me that is really interesting. It's like, that's where we hold ourselves back, right? Is like,
Mhm.
and it creates separation. So I'm really, really passionate about like cultural acceptance and racial acceptance and
Yeah.
equality and oneness. And I just got that, like, actually part of us denying our own needs, shattering those shoulds, is like that separation of like, but that's wrong over
Yep.
here. That's different.
Exactly.
And
Yep.
so I shouldn't want that. So I'm going to stay
Hmm.
stuck in my own pain over here. That is like the
Yep.
tribal thing, like you're saying, right? It's like
Yeah.
it can go to so many different levels.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
nationalism is like, this is what nationalism is like born of, like,
Hmm.
US fucking A. Like, we're like,
Oh, yeah.
it's so fascinating to me, but I never, like what you just shared really brought it home to this level of like a bigger perspective of how we keep ourselves in the pain of
Yeah.
not letting go of those kind of like conditionings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it can, corporations use that, like that hard wiring to get us to give all of our time and effort to them because we
Mm,
get back that like sense of this is the way that it is and it feels comfortable. It feels
mhm.
comfortable to know how it's supposed to be every day. And that's why it's so attractive to like belong, back 50, 75 years ago, even when you could belong to a company for your whole life,
Yeah.
where you belong to this company. And as long as you stayed loyal and worked your butt off, they kept you forever. And so, the
Yeah.
last 10 to 20 years where the whole corporate world has just been getting rid of people and there's no loyalty and they'll let go of the person right before retirement to hire the 25-year-old. And that's, I think,
Mhm.
why you see so many people taking solopreneur positions because they're so disillusioned by this false idea that they can feel secure in a corporation because they'll know what to expect. And
Yeah.
what you just said is just so true. We're living on the edge. Those of us that are
Yeah.
doing anything outside the cultural norm are living on the edge. And
Mhm.
there's a part of our psyche that literally is like herd mentality. It's like, no, it's safe to be in the middle where everybody else is. Being on the edge is where the wolf comes and picks you off.
Mhm.
And so it's one of the challenges is to make space for the fear that comes up without letting that fear rule us.
Yeah.
And
That's beautiful.
so,
I know that I
yeah,
cut you
thank you.
off when you're about ready to go
No,
into
it's fine.
the
Yeah,
shattering the shoulds and
the
how it
how to
relates
do it.
to heartbreak. But you know what? I think a better question that I'd love for you to share is, if you're comfortable, is
Hmm.
in your own heartbreak, because as I
Yeah.
understand, you had a previous partner, right? A husband, and
Hmm.
then got divorced.
Yeah, that was
Um,
ugly and horrible. Yeah.
Okay, so if you're willing to share, I think it would be really,
Yeah.
really beneficial for people of like when you are in that place of the heartbreak of this relationship ending, what shoulds came up for you and how did you take yourself through that
Mm.
process of really shattering them?
Yeah, thank you.
Mhm.
Well, as much as I'd like to say that I went through that process smoothly, I didn't really. I did. It was at the beginning of my journey. That was 15 years ago. So that was kind of
Mm,
the impetus into my spiritual development and my personal development.
yeah,
Um, and so actually, I'd like to answer a different question, which is something
sure.
that which ties into something you brought up earlier, which is um, like in a relationship.
Yeah.
And there was a time about 4 years ago in my current relationship where I realized I had kind of been waking up every day telling myself I had a marriage that I didn't have,
Hmm.
and then ending the day really bummed that I did it wrong. Like I couldn't create this thing.
Mm,
And there was a time period when I was really stepping into myself as an entrepreneur that shifted the
mhm.
power dynamic in my relationship. And I was scared that we weren't going to make it. Like there was 8 months where I wasn't sure if I was going to stay. And we actually talked about divorce. And the first step that I had to take that was really powerful was I had to grieve the loss of what I thought I had.
Mm,
And there was no one that could fix it. Like I remember going through this process and it was really painful. My husband like being there, loving me, like, what can I do? How can I fix it? It's like, no, honey, it's already done. Like I've done this to myself. Like I created this idea of what I thought we were,
mm,
and that's not what we have. And it was really, really painful. It was like gasping for breath, tears, painful. But I had to allow myself to go through that. I had to not like, like if my shoulds wouldn't have been in charge, it would have been like, oh, you should just get over that and be happy with what you have. Or you should just, like there should be some easier way. And it's like, no, I had to go. One of the things I talk about in my women's retreat is the fire of our emotions, that we have to go through that fire, that flame of the pain in order to move through it to the other side and actually like literally have the emotion move through our body. And if we're holding that back, a lot of people think that emotions are really painful, and they can be, but what's more painful is hanging out right at the edge of the emotion and not letting yourself feel it.
Yes. So much worse. Like, and I feel like if I would have heard that, I just want to point this out for people who might be really new to doing work around their relationships or transformational work, spiritual work, whatever. If I would have heard that, like, I think 10 years ago is when I started to really like dive into this stuff. I would have been like, yeah, right. Like that makes no sense to me. So it's one of those things you just have to experience to understand. And so if there's any other, any way that you could, I don't know. I'd love to hear from you, Starr, on elaborating around that, just for people to maybe really feel that and understand the process of like how going through the emotions, really feeling them, is going to get you out to the other side. And also another thing that I just want to bring up is so many of my clients are afraid they're going to be stuck if they they're going to be like stuck in a hole and not be able to crawl out. So,
yeah. And I think that that's a really valid fear, because most of us think, like, I would say myself, I'll talk about myself instead of just generalizing. But when I started this work 10 years ago, I had no fucking clue what an emotion was. I had so covered myself up with, everything's fine. Woo, yeah. Like I was just this, like, everything's fine, on top of like, oh, I suck, please don't look, and then, so emotions were terrifying for me. So I went through the process of learning what emotions were and how to process them through my training to become a spiritual practitioner. And I read this book by Gary Zukav called Heart of the Soul. And I think it should be called Emotions 101. Yeah. So that book helped me more than anything to really recognize that our emotions live in our bodies, and that different parts of our bodies will hold different emotions. And so by learning to really tune into my body, I've learned to experience these emotions without trying to avoid them. And so the thing that you're talking about, the hole that we fall into, I actually, again, I call that when we talk about wallowing in emotion, I call bullshit. You're not in the emotion. You're right at the edge of it, and you're afraid to step in. And so I think the hole we get into is again, you're right at the edge, and you're like, no, it's scary. Don't make me go in there. But you're not actually in it. You're not actually feeling it. Because if you were feeling it, you would get to the other side. Because feelings are literally like a fire. They burn for a minute, and then they run out of fuel and they dissipate. And in my experience, and so the practice that I do with my emotions, I'd love to share a little practice that I do.
Please.
So if I have a strong emotion come up, the first thing I do is get in touch with it in my body. So where is it? Is it that my toes are curled up? Is it hard to swallow? Is it that my heart feels contracted? Does my gut feel like someone punched me? Does my uterus feel tight? Like, what is it? Does my head hurt? Like, where is it in my body first? And just kind of really tap into that feeling. And then and this is going to be super counterintuitive. Okay. You're going to be like, what? No, don't make me do that. I expand and make space for that emotion to take up as much as it needs. Because our first reaction to an emotion is to contract against it, or to try to pluck it out like a weed. Get over that. I don't want that.
What I say is it's like a little child. It's like, mommy, 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 mommy. And like, if you're not paying attention to the little child, it's probably not going to shut up. And if it does, it's going to go pout in the corner and still be there.
Yeah. Or it's going to wet its pants and make a big mess on your floor.
There we go. Spoken like a true mom. You can tell I don't have kids.
Yeah, I had 3, and yes, we had lots of messes on the floor.
Yeah, so
But
really
yeah.
allowing it to expand throughout your whole body. Yeah, take up space.
And then the next piece, again, is going to be really counterintuitive, but it's to try your best, and it's going to be challenging at first, but you'll get better at it, to drop the story.
Mm.
Because we think that telling the story about why we feel whatever we feel is feeling the emotion,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not. As long as we're in our heads, we're not feeling. We're
Yeah.
talking, we're processing, we're thinking, we're analyzing, we're concluding, we're making shit up, but we're not feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Feeling doesn't
Do you
have
want to,
words.
will you expand on it? So I'm just remembering when I first learned that term story, I didn't know what people meant. So do you want to
Yeah,
explain
thank
maybe
you.
just what does it mean when we say the story that we have around it?
Yeah, so, well, this is going to come as quite a shock to most people, but everything you believe about everything is a story that you made up. Sorry.
Yes.
So
Yes. We're
there's no
all living in
actual
this crazy reality that we created for ourselves.
yeah, like I like to tell my clients, there is no the way that things are. There is your perception and the story you made up about it, and there's my perception and the story I made up about it. And so even just in conversation, when I teach communication, I teach let's not make the purpose to try to agree about what happened, because we both have we've already made up completely different stories about what happened. So let's try to find a place of understanding. And so really, or it's recognizing that our stories, they're the filter through which we see life. And we may have a story like one of my stories that I used to tell myself all the time was that I suck. It was kind of like a cop out. Like it was like this narrative that just went in my head. It was like, oh, well, of course I did that because I suck. And it was like, oh, well, of course I didn't do that because I suck. And it took me like years to stop telling that fucking story. Like, what a lame, boring story. And it's not even true.
Yeah. My story is I'm all alone. I'm all alone, which is one of the main reasons that like I'm a relationship coach now, because I'm not alone, and I believe so much in like, community and partnership, blah, blah, blah. So I think it's helpful that you call that out and that you shared, what that narrative and that story is, because people listening can start to identify what are the stories I'm telling myself.
And that's where the work by Byron Katie comes in really handy, because she goes through a series of questions that are really about, like, it's examining them. And so, both in the Shatter Your Shoulds and in the Heartbreak and looking at stories, it's all, for me, it's about like removing myself from it just enough to where I can look at it from an observer standpoint and being like, all right, so I keep saying I suck. Is that true?
Yeah.
Is that really true? How can I know it's true? If it was true, what would it be like if it wasn't true? So again, I'm messing up Byron Katie's questions.
That's okay. No, you're pretty close.
I'm close.
Yeah,
but
I will type that in. I think it's thework.org.
Thework.com.
Is it thework.com?
Sure, yeah.
I think it's org. I was actually interviewed with her on NPR. Me and her were interviewed for the same segment, which was really cool. So I'll find that link and put it in the chat box.
Yeah, but I highly recommend that to people, especially if you're just starting to examine those stories. Her work is really a powerful way to just be like, okay, so I have all these stories. Are they true? And are they serving me? Like, to me, that's what it's about. Are they serving you?
Yeah, are they serving you? You're right. It's thework.com.
Yeah. So like, if I believe that I suck, is that really going to help me be a good leader and to be a good coach and to empower women? Probably not so much. And so,
and if you believe you suck, then that's not going to get you out of the heartbreak, right? Because you're going to stay in that spiral of like, oh, I wasn't good enough.
Exactly.
Yep. And that's not the reality. I can sit here and tell you that you do not suck, no matter who you are, what you've done, like, and so.
Exactly. And so when I say drop the story, when I say drop the story, I guess what I mean is drop the chatter, drop the conversation about why you feel the way that you feel. Because as long as we're like, because then we get into like justifying, like, well, I should be mad because this really sucked, or I should be sad because, and we were back in shoulds again. And so it's, as long as we're having a conversation in our head. And so I invite you to do whatever you can, even if it's just for a fraction of a second.
Yeah.
to experience that feeling in your body without a narrative about it.
Yeah. Beautiful. So,
And then
the steps were to tap into where the emotion is in your body, and then to identify it and allow it, give it the space to expand, take up as much space. Okay. And then drop the story. Was there any step after that?
Yeah. So I actually learned these next two steps from this amazing woman that I took a class with. She's a reverend. I feel bad for not remembering her last name. I believe her first name,
That's okay.
excuse me, was Julie, which there's lots of Reverend Julies in the world. So I'm sorry.
All knowledge is just, it's not owned by anyone,
so
as
good.
Elizabeth Gilbert says.
Yeah, exactly. But it's helped me. I mean, I took her class like 10 years ago and it was so amazing. But she said, so you get into that place where you've dropped the narrative around it. Mm-hmm. And then you imagine how many other people on the planet are feeling that feeling right now.
Oh my God. That is so beautiful.
And then you unify with those other people and just have compassion for all of you.
Oh my God, that makes me want to cry, Starr.
I know, right? Because then it takes us out of...
That's one of the most beautiful tools I've ever heard.
I've used it for 10 years. It's changed my life. It's amazing.
Wow.
Yeah. Because then it gets us out of our head and into our bodies, but it also gets us into our hearts where it's like, I'm not the only person who's heartbroken right now. I'm not the only person who's devastated right now. And it doesn't, it doesn't magically make it go away, but I feel like it softens us. And it allows us to have compassion for ourselves, which is what we don't do when we should all over ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. And one of my teachers, I'm in the Relationships on the Spiritual Path course right now, which is totally blowing my mind. Her name's Lissa Rankin.
I love her. Yeah.
You know Lissa Rankin? Okay. She's a doctor, and she predominantly trains doctors in the Whole Health Medicine Institute, but I love it because she merges research with, the mind and the body and spirituality. Yeah. And then she randomly put out this relationship course, and I was like, oh my God, I love you. I'm in. But she actually just did her third TED Talk or something, and it is called the #1 public health crisis. And she talks about loneliness, and she gives data.
Yeah.
So I'm mentioning that to reinforce this step of imagine all the other people around the world that are feeling, this emotion that you're feeling right now, and just unify with all of them. And that sense of connection, wow, that could change the world.
Yeah. I believe that loneliness is the World Health Organization calls the number of suicides that we have on our planet an actual health crisis. We have more suicides than any other way that people die, and we don't even talk about it, and we make it an individual person's problem. If they had just reached out, and really, it's our culture can be so isolating that people feel really alone. And so, anything that we can do to connect with our heart, but also to connect with all the hearts. There's over 7 billion people on the planet. I guarantee there's probably a decent handful that are feeling what you're feeling right now. And it doesn't dismiss the validity of your feeling. In fact, quite the opposite.
Yeah.
And I think that's another piece as well, that where the should comes in, is we dismiss the validity of our feelings. And I know, especially what you were talking about earlier about needing to be with women. And then if you don't have that community, you'll try to get that from your partner. I think that's one of those things where we try to make men women, and we try to have them see us and validate us the way another woman would, and they just aren't capable of that. They can see us and validate us in other ways.
Not fair to them.
Yeah, it's not fair to them to expect something that they aren't in a place to give. And so that validation, that's why at the women's retreat, we'll be spending a whole night working on this stuff, looking at emotions and talking about how to make space for that, and having partner shares and experientials and lots of different ways to make emotions safe. Because a lot of times in our partnership, if our spouse, can't reflect our emotions back to us as a valid thing, then we start devalidating them. And then we start dismissing them, and then we internalize that, and then we feel like a failure, and all those shoulds.
Yeah.
From really, as I tell my kids, every unfelt emotion we have goes into a bucket. And when that bucket is full, those emotions come out sideways.
Yeah.
And that's when like one little tiny thing sets us off and we're crying for no reason, or one little tiny thing sets us off and we're pissed for no reason. It's because we actually had a lot of sad and a lot of pissed go in the bucket that we didn't deal with, that we didn't feel, that we didn't let move through us. You know, I'd love to share my 12-year-old. Like, he's been such a great teacher for me because I can literally physically see the emotion move through his body and leave. And then he's like, I'm here. And then it's done and it never comes back up again. But there will be times where if he didn't get to do that, it wasn't a safe space. If he was, you know, around other people where he couldn't process that fully, when he comes to me, it's like it's still there. It's like fresh. It's still alive. He's, you know, he's got the tears coming as if it just happened. And then if I just hold space for him to move through that emotion, it's like I watch him have this intense emotion and then kind of relax. And then he's fine. And then he's fine. And then he never has to revisit that issue again because he already did. He moved through it. He processed it. And now he's done. You know, obviously as he gets older and gets more hormones and has more friends, he's, you know, carrying around a little more stuff. But especially when he was younger, you know, like under 8, I could just see it so black and white, him carrying around this unfinished thing and then just like relaxing into himself when he got to move that through his body.
Yeah, such a good reminder. Kids are such big teachers around that. You know, I always think of the kids in the like who are sharing toys and they're like, rah, like really upset, you know, like Bobby stole my toy. And then 2 seconds later, she's fine and they're best friends again, you know, and like they're playing with something else. And it's, that analogy of the child and how they just let things go so much faster than us as adults, how we become, so we have all these shoulds, right? And we grasp onto it and we don't process our emotions. And so this is such an important topic. I want to make sure, because we're at the end of our time, but I want to make sure that we not only share with them your gift, but was there a 5th step that we didn't cover?
Nope, that was it. That was the final. Yeah, just connect with everyone and have compassion for anyone else having that feeling.
Great.
And
so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to. It really has been such a powerful practice for me.
Yeah. Beautiful. So do you want to share with everybody? Well, first, actually, do you have any kind of like last thoughts around this topic that you'd like women to hear right now? Especially the women who are having a tough time, you know, during this season and are feeling heartbroken. Is there anything around Shattering the Shoulds or just in general that you'd like to share with them to close?
Yeah. Well, I was talking earlier about how as humans we're kind of looking for the one right way. And one of my common phrases that I got from Daniel Quinn, amazing author, is there is no one right way. And so I just want to tell you that if you're feeling heartbroken, there's no one right way to process your heartbreak.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's a way that is your way. And if you get quiet and you listen, you'll be guided what to do. And maybe it's just being with yourself and allowing those feelings. And then I would just say, if you get stuck, if you feel like you're wallowing or like you're in a hole or like, you know, your sadness is lasting longer than you feel is healthy, reach out, get support, ask for help, get a coach, call a friend, you know, do what you can, but you're not alone and you don't have to go through this alone.
Wow. That is so beautiful. Thank you, Starr. Thank you so much for that gorgeous ending. What like a beautiful bow to tie all of this up with. I'm thinking bows, you know, it's the holidays, wrapping presents.
Yeah, I'll take it.
So thank you so much. And so now I'd love for you to share what is this fabulous gift that you are providing everybody with in the Holiday Heartbreak Survival Kit? You want to share what it is?
Yeah, so it's called the Shatter Your Shoulds Blueprint. And, you know, I worked really hard on it and it's pretty because I gave it to my graphic designer and she made it pretty. But it's, you know, it's an opportunity to really look at the areas of your life that you are shoulding on yourself. And it's got some real life tips on how to really make yourself a priority, how to shift your perspective, how to invite sisterhood into your life, And really some practical ways to, some affirmations, some ways to reconnect with the planet. I mean, it's a pretty long and valuable blueprint, and it really is going to help you to make yourself and whatever you're going through right for you, like valid for you, and then give you some tips on how to move out of that heartbreak, once you do this processing. Like, I don't want you to should on yourself and think that you're supposed to do this stuff in any pace other than what is feeling right to you. But, once you do some of this emotional processing that we talked about, then really start adding more self-care, adding more sisterhood, adding more time with nature, whatever it is that allows you to really own who you are and live your life in a way that is in alignment with your essence, that isn't in alignment with all these shoulds and supposed tos that you've put on yourself.
So beautiful. Thank you so much for offering this gift to everyone. I mean, like I said at the beginning and throughout this whole conversation, I'm so passionate about this topic, and it's been a humongous catalyst, transformative, fire walking through all the emotions like tool for me as well. Like, I literally, if I would have not learned how to do this and to let go of all those shoulds, I would not be where I am right now. Not in relationships, not in life, not in business, not in anything.
Absolutely.
So thank you.
Yeah. And I gotta say, the one thing that I haven't talked about this whole time, which is that with the political climate of our country right now, I think it's even more important for women to do what they need to do to take care of themselves, so we can all be leaders on the edge.
Yeah.
We're going to be on the edge of what is considered normal to some people, and it's not always comfortable, but it's better when we're there together and when we're showing up in our full power instead of the supposed tos and the shoulds. And especially as certain people tell us what a woman should be and what a woman should do to her body, it's even more important that we stand in our truths and that we stand in our feminine power.
Yeah. Thank you for adding that. So important that we keep coming home to what matters to us. So you guys, make sure I put the link in the chat box, and you can just click on it and go to bit.ly/heart holiday. And when you download that kit, you will find that there's 18 experts who have all come together, including Starr. So make sure to grab Starr's gift. You can scroll down, see her beautiful face, click get the gift, and it'll take you to her website where you can download her gift that she just described, and start using this tool right away, because the time is now. So I really encourage you to go over there. And then also, Starr, how can people stay in contact with you or find out more about your retreat?
Yeah, so my retreat is at the end of February, and it's on my website, which is radicalrevelations.com. REVEL Asians.com. And there's information about how to connect with me for a session, for one-on-one coaching, and as well as my retreat. There's more information about that. So I would love to connect with you. And I'd also, if you want to let me know how this blueprint impacted your life and your holiday heartbreak, I would love to hear from you. So please reach out. You can email me at Starr with 2 R's at radicalrevelations.com, and I would love to hear from you. And if you want to set up a time to chat, I would love to speak with you as well.
Great. I put your email in the chat box for everyone.
Thank you. So. And I'm also all over social media at Rad Revelations. So whether it's Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn or Instagram, it's all at Rad Revelations. So you can find me there as well.
What a cool handle you got there.
Thanks. It's pretty rad.
It's pretty rad, just like you. It's pretty rad. Well, thank you so much, Starr. I just want to appreciate you one more time and love you up. And thank you so much for being in my life, and also joining in on this beautiful project and sharing your gifts and being here for this hour to support everyone and share your amazing wisdom. all of these years.
Well, it's been an honor.
Being a leader.
Thank you so much for, for all the work that you've put into doing this, and just for being a bright, sparkly, shining light that helps lift up women. And I think there can't be too many of us. So
there cannot be.
No. So I'm so glad that you're doing what you're doing, and thanks for the great questions. I love where this went. I mean, I know that you and I could talk about this forever. So.
I know. It's one of my favorite things to do. I like to pretend I'm Oprah. I'm like secretly like channeling Oprah with all my questions.
Totally. Well done. I loved it.
Yes. Well, I love you so much. Have a beautiful night, and love all of you for tuning in. I'm sending you so much love. Really take care of yourself this holiday and beyond. And you are not alone. Reach out to someone. It could be Starr, me. Just get the support you need. We love you. Mwah.
Well, thank you so much, Jessica. Mwah.
Thank you,
everyone.
Bye-bye.